So my first question for you today, John, is when it comes to how you got into music, was this something that was related through your parents, or did you see somebody on TV one day you wanted to be like, or did you get your first guitar and go from there? What's the story behind what gave you your start?
It was a combination of the second two things. I always was into music before I played an instrument, like heavily. I used to just air guitar or just dance. Me and my friends would dance to music for our parents and stuff. We'd put on these little shows where really we were just flopping around our porch and charging our neighbors like a penny to come see it. It was really funny.
Oh my gosh, that is adorable.
Yeah, and then it was air guitaring. I don't know what drew me to the guitar, and drums too. I used to set up pots and pans in my bedroom and hit them like in the shape of a drum set.
You can play drums too, can't you?
I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm good enough to do, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say that I'm good publicly because Corey's so amazing that I would never want to.
It's hard to put you two on a scale with
yeah,
that.
no, I'll never be like Corey drummer. But yeah, I mean, I've done quite a few of the demos that we, you know, in the beginning, where it would have me playing all the instruments and stuff, you know, it's pretty funny. Maybe that'll be something funny to release one day, but
just to rotate around, everybody just switch instruments.
Well, Mark can play guitar pretty well, and Justin can play guitar really well too. So the other day, Corey wasn't around. We were working on a piece, and Mark was on guitar, I was on drums, and the only bass was right-handed, and so Justin was playing right-handed bass. So
I bet that was fun.
Yeah, right, it actually sounded kind of decent. It was pretty good. But yeah, so the start was for sure air guitaring to, you know, music. And then no one in my family played an instrument. My dad sort of tried to do guitar lessons, bought a acoustic guitar, and then kind of accidentally left it outside in the rain. He wasn't very committed. And
so you picked up on that, huh?
Yeah, well, it was around. And then my friend's dad played in a punk rock band or some kind of just local rock band. And he showed me my first couple of chords, and I just took to it right away. So there really was like there was kind of no problem in me understanding how to do whatever people showed me. So that's kind of where it took off, yeah.
So tell me about how you guys all met and became a band.
I was actually at an R&B jam, and this kid came up to me and said, you know, that we were networking, and then after knowing him for a short amount of time, he was like, you should come down to this gig I'm playing. It's with this rock band. And he sent forward the originals they had done, which were all Mark's originals. And he was a real rock singer. There was no question about it. And so I was like, wow, this will be awesome, you know? And I went down, I sat in and played, you know, a couple covers. I played one of their originals, and Mark really liked it. He liked the vibe. You know, I had kind of my faux leather jacket and my Les Paul and, you know, just leather boots. And he was just like, dude, you're rock and fucking roll. I was like,
and you're probably thinking the same thing too, like, oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah, it was funny, you know, and he had the lead singer thing back then too. You could tell he was just like, I'm the coolest guy in the room. He just kind of swaggered around. It was like the shittiest gig on earth too. And so I was like, all right, he's definitely a lead singer. This is perfect. But, and then him and I were in a variation of the group for a while. And then some members phased out kind of one by one. And I brought Justin in because I had started jamming with him through a circuit of just other sidemen. We all the backing band all kind of came from the sideman pool. We were kind of playing for other people, just being musicians, teaching lessons, you know, playing gigs, whatnot, doing sessions. And I brought Justin in, and then we went for a while, kind of rotating some drummers in and out. Didn't really find a fit. It almost kind of went stagnant for a sec, and then we found Corey. He was really just the first guy on drums who was awesome and straight up was like, I want to be in the band. So that's kind of a problem with LA, is finding someone it's not a struggle to find someone who's great. It's a struggle to find someone who wants to start. Yeah, start from the bottom, because there's so many great gig opportunities here, especially if you get your stuff together and you're, guys go make $4,000 a week or something, and then change their lives, go buy a house. So it's like, which obviously we're trying to do, but so yeah. And then from there, I remember the first gig I played with Corey on the band. We played on the street and on Sunset Boulevard. Oh, it was awesome. I think it's one of my favorite gigs, pre hitting the road that we ever did. I think it is. It's my favorite gig we ever did. It was totally not organized. It was through some weed company. Sunset Boulevard nights, I don't even know what they call it, where they just let bands play like every mile somewhere. And so this weed shop was like, dude, we're taking part, play out in the street. And so we did it. And Corey showed up, knew the tunes pretty much, the originals as well. And we just played on the street like amps to 10, and people just flocked and watched, and it was the greatest.
I think people have a thing for flocking to you guys. For one thing, I saw y'all at Exit 111, and I'm waiting in the crowd, like trying to get up there, like before the last act was over with. And I got up there to the barricade, and I was like, well, damn. I was like, I ran up here, and there isn't that many people up there. Next thing I know, I turned around, and you could just see people just coming towards you guys. And I was wearing one of your shirts that day. And I mean, I even had this group of people stop me, and they were like, where did you get that shirt? I'm like, I think I got it off their website. They were like, those dudes rock. And I just remember turning around, and it was just, everybody was just coming towards that sound.
That's how we remember it as well. I remember, it just filled up, and that was such a fun set. And I was pretty nervous about it, because it was a heavier lineup. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of shows we did that festivals that were heavy lineups, metal and hardcore and dark, and I was like, where are we gonna go over well, And both times we went over just like that. Yeah. Exit 111 was one, and the other one was Heavy Montreal. And we played on Slayer Day. And
oh god, like, and that's what all those metalheads, it's fucking Slayer all day.
Yeah, dude. And they were like just rocking so hard to us, and it was just some of my favorite crowds, those two shows, for sure. And I remember Exit 111, Justin took a joint from
I have a video of that. God, it was that was the funniest shit. I swear it was. I mean,
that was not funny to imagine doing that now with the coronavirus, like taking a joint from a stranger.
I see normal things, like I'll just watch TV and see somebody sit down like at a patio and touch it, and I'm like, oh my god. And I was like, wait, no, at some point things were normal and you could do things.
Yeah, like yeah, right.
But maybe it'll all be over soon, and you guys will be in Atlanta. See y'all again.
And we were supposed to play there too.
Next question. How did you guys come up with the name Dirty Honey?
That was all Mark. The one thing we agreed on was we didn't like any of the band names we had prior to that. And so we all shot names at each other. I would probably say 75% of mine were jokes. And I was always like, hey, listen, our name's terrible. I'm probably not going to be the guy who comes up with the name, but our name sucks. And people threw around names. There were a few that got close, and we even called ourselves that for a week or two. But then one day he came with Dirty Honey. Apparently he came twice with it. And the first time we just didn't see it, like in the run of a bunch of names. Because he does maintain that he's like, I threw it to you guys early and you didn't say anything. Yeah, it didn't click. So I was like, I don't remember that. But I remember the time that it did click. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's cool. And he said that what happened was he's a big Howard Stern fan, was listening to Howard Stern, and Robert Plant was on the show talking about the Honey Drippers, and his mind just started thinking about how that's, kind of like got a dirty connotation to it, and then he just went Dirty Honey, and he just kind of put that together. He kind of had a light bulb moment, and we all tested it with our girlfriends, our family, and it was like a 100%. Actually, a 100% approval rating. So
that is where Dirty Honey comes from.
That's where it comes from. Yep.
Tell me about you guys' creative process. Do you have a riff first, or does Mark have the vocals, or do you have Corey come in? How does that work?
95% of the time, it's the riff first. there have been a few exceptions. There's a new song that we're doing that definitely started with a Mark vocal. And then the riff came later. So that's the rarity, but most of the time it's the riff first. I know that I think it just gets us pumped if we have a riff that hits immediately. And we're as we're going, we're fine tuning that instinct more and more, where we just know, because there's a bunch of riffs that are cool to play or fun or jammy, but we're a band that wants to be succinct. Like When I'm Gone, it's just da 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 clack clack clack, and you just you're in. If you like this kind of music, it's just that's it, you know. And even Rolling Sevens, it starts a little more humbly, but it's got each little riff has to have its own little perfect story. So, and we also don't write actually a lot of songs. So our process is we get a golden nugget and we make sure we see it through, and we may have about 4 golden nuggets, 2 ones that still need to be polished, 3 more that are hovering, and then, you know, we kind of end up with roughly, you know, the amount of songs we're going to release, maybe 2 more. You know, we're not the kind of band that has 100 songs, and, like, you know, Mark's not like, oh, I wrote, you know, a book's worth of lyrics the other day. That's not really, we really just work one to death until we just go, wow, it's
well, I mean, I think that's the best way to do it, because, like, there's no bad song. It's not like when you hit an album or an EP and you're like, oh, I really don't like that, let me skip over that. No, it can just play all the way through. You don't have to skip a single song. So that time has to be worth it.
Absolutely. And I think because of the medium today, we don't, and, you know, we adore obviously the vinyl era of music. And so sometimes I'm like, you know, we got to put out 12 songs. But then I realized a lot of times they did that because they literally had to fill the space on the disc. And we don't have to do that anymore. So as long as we put out content that's as strong as the first 6 songs we put out, we feel that, you know, especially if we add 6 to 8 more, certainly 10, I mean, that's going to all mixed together. That's going to be a great concert, you know?
Right.
So.
Not one that you're just sitting there like, okay, well, I don't really like or know this one. You know them all. You would sit there and you would enjoy every single song.
Absolutely. You know, and I think in the beginning when we were finding out our process, I was a little self-conscious because I was like, that's where Mark and I sort of had to learn each other for a while, because, you know, I had to learn him too, which was like, I was like, why are you still harping on that old idea? Like, look, I got this new one, you know, and I'm always like, let's go. Like, let's throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall was my thing. And he was like, no, I think it was too much. He was like, but this one is good. Like, why don't we see it through? And I've come around to that more, and the recipe has been for success. It's been a successful recipe.
Yeah. How long have you guys been a band? It hasn't been, or like, say, since your EP came out, how long's that been?
Well, the EP is, what month is it now? Now it's all just Corona month. So
yes, it's all just Corona.
May. Yes, it's May. Yeah. The EP came out about a year, 2 months. I think it came out March 2019. And Dirty Honey had been a band for about a year and change.
So that's how you know you did it right, just that fast, and you guys have grown so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, when we got Corey, there was only a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months, where things didn't happen. You know, we just played gigs and it was going as it kind of had gone, but we had Corey, and then it really all just started one day. Mark got the bug again. He's like, we should record, you know, like really record. We're always messing around in my sort of toy studio, I call it. But we're like, let's find a real studio. And Corey's like loading his drums in at this crappy gig we're playing. And he's just like, kind of overhearing us because he's still kind of like the new guy and he's not really part of the plan.
Oh, what are they talking about over there?
Yeah. Not that he wasn't accepted, but just, he's shy. He's a nice guy. And so he was like, well, you guys want to record? And we're like, yeah. He's like, well, we can. My buddy is an engineer at this place called NRG, and he's allowed to, take in customers on the off hours. Now, NRG is like a Capitol Studios, but it's a Class A studio. I mean, it's okay. Like, what's that band? Like Linkin Park, all their hit records were recorded there. Like you go in there, it's like No Doubt on the wall, like Stained, a lot of rock radio, massive stuff on the wall there.
This is a serious place.
It was a serious place, and we were getting it for like, for just this kid's like engineering rate, because he just wants to practice. That's a lot of times what big studios do. They'll let their engineers use the off time. The only sort of drag of it is like you're not actually booked there. So if somebody came in, you could just be sort of kicked out. But so you kind of go in, you just try to get it done. There's like this hustle about it. But once that happened, then it's just like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then within 6 months, we were talking with our now manager. So it just started to roll. It's like we did that demo. Then we did a live video, which was Mark's idea. And then we did, and then we started talking to managers. It was pretty great. It's
I mean, we don't even have to talk about how you guys kind of made history on the Billboard charts. We don't. God, that was so crazy.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about that.
Let me make sure I say this correctly. First unsigned rock band to hit #1 on the rock charts. Is that right?
Yep. Ever. Yep.
Ever. History.
Ever.
God, do you ever just have to sit back and kind of just, my God, like we actually did that.
Yeah, sometimes. But more in the way of just I forget that that's like a big deal. Just because we're very like, we keep our head, our nose to the grindstone, our heads down, and like, and everything starts happening so fast. And our manager is very like, our team's very like, what's next oriented. There's not a lot around patting ourselves on the back all the time. So yeah, there'll be moments where like, wait, that isn't.
It doesn't stop.
Like, oh, I did that.
It was
like,
you.
A riff I wrote on a couch, like not really thinking it would do anything one day. So like,
and then here
you are.
So I know you guys were supposed to be set to record more. Is it more to the EP or another album? But I guess because of all of this, that's probably been pushed back or just set to a later date.
We're working on the material now that we have more time. We've just decided, well, let's just, if it was going to be an EP, maybe it'll be an album. I don't know, but now it's just, let's just get as much great material as we can. And as soon as there's a window, because now that our schedule is cleared, unfortunately, as soon as there's a window to record and get with our producer, we're going to go do that. So we're really kind of just waiting on the health and safety of the public to make that move.
This is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Like it's good because you can sit here and you can perfect and you can make sure you have things exactly how you want them. But then it's like, I know you guys have to be so eager to go out and do shows and get it all produced. And
I mean, yeah, you pretty much just nailed it. That's all the feelings. It's like
so much all at once and all up in the air. When will it be over? Does anybody really even know the answer to that question?
They really, anyone who's saying they have the answer to that is selling you something, probably.
Well, I read some link that was saying that some expert believes that concerts may not return until October of 2021. I don't know who this expert is, but I pray to God that man is not right. I don't know what everybody's going to do.
I know. Who knows? Hey, I like the Zeppelin 4 in the shelf. That's cool.
Oh, hell yeah. House of the Holy is probably my favorite, though.
Absolutely.
But is there a bad Zeppelin album? There is not.
There really isn't. I think when I was a young kid, because they were one of my first influences. Once I got into guitar, my mom had Zeppelin 2 in the record collection. That's kind of when I started paying attention to what the records even were. They were just a thing on a shelf. And classic rock and Zeppelin. I was like, what is that? And Mom pulled that out. But I think at that time I became obsessed. And the only two, when I was a kid, I used to think like Presence and Into the Outdoor. I just kind of skipped them. But now I think those are pretty awesome albums as well.
Oh, yeah. I bet your mom looks back and is like, thank God that I had those albums on that shelf.
Yeah.
What'd you say is the toughest part about being in a band?
23 hours in between playing.
That is a really good answer. Okay, you have my favorite answer for that so far.
Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Everything that is entailed in making yourself get to that, that's the toughest part for sure.
You could collab with anybody, dead or alive. Who would it be?
John Bonham.
Good one. Good one. Can't go wrong, can you?
Can't go wrong there.
Nothing Zeppelin you can go wrong with, but a favorite tour memory.
Okay, so I think I'll just give you a bunch. One of my favorite memories, one of my favorite shows is we played Lubbock, Texas, and the mood with the band was, why did we book this town? It's out of the way. We could have just skipped it. There's no radio here. It's teeny. Kind of being like a little bit tired and cranky about it, you know? And I think it was like a 400 cap room and maybe 150 people came, and they were so insanely psyched. It was one of the most feverish group of people we ever played for. I mean, they were like touching our legs, like grabbing Justin's hair, screaming. There was like a whole crew of friends who found out about us on Spotify at the nearby college, which I believe is Texas Tech there. I might be speaking out of turn, but there's a massive, one of the big Texas schools is right there. And they all came, and it was that was one of the best. Certainly just kind of milling about and like seeing your name in lights at the Vegas stuff, opening for Guns, and just being around that whole thing and sound checking and like standing next to Slash's gear and Duff's gear. And,
God. Yeah,
I mean, that was just so surreal. And then actually we did our whole sound check, and then I got done and I kind of looked over, and there was this older guy sitting there, and I just was feeling so good. I was like, hey, who are you, man? Like,
what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? And he was like, oh, I've been Axel's personal assistant since like the 90s, like the early 90s. Like, I was like, whoa. So I was kind of starstruck about that. And he was like, you guys sound great.
That's gotta be a tough job right there.
Yeah.
On the list of tough jobs, being Axl Rose's assistant for 30 years would have to be.
Yeah. Right. I think he was like, it's just incredible. Yeah. I mean, just like, how did you do it? What are your tips on job security? This whole last tour was incredible. The Rolling Sevens tour. It just was, it literally was rolling with more and more steam as it went on. There were like maybe 5 or 6 shows that were sold out when we started off, and I think every one of them was at most, with the exception of one, at most like 90% sold out.
Damn.
And most were sold out. And just Detroit really sticks out in my mind. Was just it was a big show. It was almost 700 people for us. And then we closed out. We closed out here in LA, and we sold out the El Rey. It was like 900 people. So, I mean, it was unreal.
What was your last show before the virus? Were you already back home? Because I know you added more shows.
The last show we played was the El Rey here in Los Angeles. Yeah. Well, at least you were back home then when it happened. Yeah, it was kind of a natural conclusion, and then we were just stuck here.
Well, so I guess I'd ask your biggest influences, but you pretty much said the classics.
For me, it was Zeppelin, AC/DC, Queen, Hendrix, Allman Brothers. I like Van Halen a lot. More so the band Van Halen. I'm not really into the tapping and all that stuff, but like the guitar technique, but just the songs and the vibe. And Guns N' Roses, of course. The other guys in the band liked some 90s stuff too, like Soundgarden and Nirvana. I think we all like Rage Against the Machine. I mean, how do you know? It's pretty.
How do you not like that?
It's just
that's universal.
Tom Morello, he's just the most efficient riff writer of all time. They're so simple, and they are just a punch head. Like, he just cut right to it with the minimal amount of fuckery. It's so good.
Who's your favorite guitarist of all time? I'll give you a moment for that one.
I have to say, I guess I would have to say Jimmy Page, because he was the first, and I just respect his artistry. I respect how he did everything. Mm-hmm. I respect how he approached the live game. I respect how he approached the studio game. I respect how he approached keeping things a secret. I respect how he was like a leader without being the singer. I respect how, just everything. It's hard to, there's so many others that I just really love, but
overall,
since he birthed it all, it's kind of like,
yeah. Kind of changed the game forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah, he birthed it all. He really was ground zero for me. Like, that's it all came after that. So, and he's somebody you could just keep going back to and learning, and when you find an article and he lets a little bit more insight out, I'm every bit, it's just like, yeah, you really just, he was a step ahead, and he knew how to do it.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you some off the wall, nothing music related questions. What is your most useless talent?
I can do a belly roll down and up.
That's a good one. That is a really good useless talent.
And I mean, that's birthright. That's God given. When I was a kid, I used to just do it all the time.
Didn't have to practice it. It was just natural belly roll.
Yeah, it was just natural belly roll, exactly.
What is your go-to shower song?
Might sound like a conceited guy, but right now it's our new demos, man. I've just been
Oh, that makes me so excited.
I'm so pumped on it. There's a couple songs I'm just so happy that we wrote, that I'm like, wow, we did this. This is so, lately that's what it's been. I also go like sometimes the other direction though, and I love like the sort of, I also really love like heavy songwriter stuff, but it's got to be real tear jerky. So I like mid 70s Jackson Brown. Like, he's just, I know it's not very rocker, but man, you can't.
Good stuff.
Can't beat it.
What is your favorite thing to do that is not music related? Like, there's something other than music?
There's something other than music? Be a foodie. Go camping, hiking. When I was in high school, it was play basketball. And I like to get down. I like to have friends over. I like to be social. I like to have a good time.
Shoot some hoops. What do you think you would be doing if you did not have a music career? If music was just not a thing, what would you be doing?
I think it would be, I have no idea. I think that it would be something to do with just being kind of like an outward personality, maybe. I don't know. I like to talk a lot, so. And just
be the next.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, dude. You know what? When I was a kid, I used to like rope my friends into pretending we had a talk show and we'd record ourselves. And
I love that.
Yeah, I'd love.
You were gonna be a star somehow, one way or another, right?
I'd love to do a podcast. I think it'd be great if I just. Yeah, that would be fun. Maybe I might still do that. You gotta have a good idea, you got to have an audience.
Well, whenever the tour comes back, you should just do on the road.
Yeah.
Podcast. That'd be something interesting. And I don't even think I know. I'm sure there are some, but that'd be something worth listening to. I think it'd be cool. Yeah. What is the best advice you've ever been given? So somebody could take this with them that's wanting to achieve the success that you have so fast. What would what would you say?
The first thing that jumped to my mind was an older fella said to me once, follow your heart, but use your brain a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And I thought, that's kind of generic, but as far as I get this question a lot from kids who come to the show, or parents, and even adults. Not so much adults because they're already maybe set in what they're doing with their life, but kids who want to make it or do what we're doing. Man, I even said this to my rep at Jim Dunlop too. We were talking about it, and I was like, I just tell kids, and I tell their parents straight to their face, I'm like, at your age, just whatever you're doing, be as dope as you possibly can. That's your only goal right now. You don't have rent, you don't have bills, you don't have a girlfriend or whatever. You don't, just focus on being as dope as you can, and your barometer for that is comparing yourself to your heroes. Start now. That's it. Because when you hit 20, if you're amazing, you won't have to strategize too hard about opportunities. They'll come.
No, because you'd be ahead of the game.
It's just it's a heck of a lot to try to do what we're doing, but on some level, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, when you're good, you're good.
That's it. And people know it. If you really put in the work, people will know, so. And I think, I don't look at us as I'm such a guitar nerd. I know so many guitar players, and I'm aware of so many guitar players. I don't think of myself as I'm always like, oh, I wish I was good as that guy or this guy, But I think as a band, I feel like that's really my crowning achievement. I don't feel like a clinician guitar player, hey, put on the camera and I'll slowly dissect my licks. For us, it's more about the sound and the writing and the feeling and what we did together. And I've always wanted to be a part of something like that. So
and here you are.
Here we are.
No, I was only supposed to be on here 25 minutes. I think I've talked to you past.
Well, we just had a good time.
Just having a good time.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this.
See you guys soon. Fuck this virus.
Me too. Yeah. Fuck this virus.
Bye.